Today's Q&A day. What's going on, my friends? I'm Dustin Stelzer with Electrician U. Today we're going to jump into some questions and answers. So I have gathered a whole list of y'all's crazy questions from the comments. Just as a little note, somebody left a comment and they're like, I've been leaving so many comments and you never answer any of my comments. Dude, you should count the amount of comments that I've gotten on all videos, on all DMs, on Facebook, on Instagram. I don't see probably 75, 85% of comments. I can't. I just can't keep up with them. So I'm sorry if I don't get to your comment and you've sent me like 900 messages. I'm sorry. It's just the way that it is. I'm getting help. You know, I have some people that are helping me try to curate some of this. So it's just taking work off my plate. But I'm trying. And I'm doing an entire video every other Friday just for this reason. So I'm getting there. Be patient, young one. All right. So what I'm going to do from here on out, the QAs are going to have some structure. I've been told they need to have a little bit of like, I don't know, copaceticness? Copacicity. I like that. Copacicity. Anyways, every one of them is going to have a trivia question. So today, the trivia question of the day will be answered at the end of the video, but it is going to be asked right now. What is the difference between an RCD and a GFCI? Stay tuned for the answer. It's really just a ploy to get you guys to like watch more of my video, and it's trying to like suck you into the end. It's, you know, it's like secrets of being a content creator. Anyways, getting into it, number one, we've got Kobe TV. On the Q&A number 2 video, I live in California right now, and I'm a trainee, but I have dreams and aspirations to move to Texas. What's the process of switching states as a licensed electrician? Well, that actually varies quite a bit depending on where you live. So from Texas shares reciprocity with, I think, like 6 states, or maybe there's more now. I don't know. It changes. But there are certain states that share reciprocity, meaning if you live in one of these states, you can move to any of the other in the reciprocity agreement and not have to recertify yourself. Your hours will count from one place to the other. If you're not in reciprocity, then most of the time you have to get all of your hours together and send it to a licensing agency for where you're moving to. They have to verify that your hours are at least worthwhile, and then you have to go and retest. And in some cases, depending on the environment, I've heard that they will not even certify any of your hours, and so you have to restart the entire process all over again. I think that that's something you could probably fight. With California, I don't know. I actually don't know the honest answer to that for California, to Texas specifically. What I would urge you to do, or anybody that's having this issue, the state that you're moving to, just go to their state licensing board. Here in Texas, it's Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. It's tdlr.gov or .org.gov, I think. And just go under the electricians, licensed electricians section. There's a whole long thing. You can read about this whole process. And if you have any questions, just call them. Their phone number's on the website. Like, just make the phone call and you'll find out all of the answers to these questions. Hope that helps. How much should an apprentice electrician out in trade school with 900 hours of knowledge and hands-on experience make? Probably nothing. Sorry, brah. Mac McLaughlin. This was on the Q&A number 2. 900 hours is like a baby that just learned how to crawl trying to enter the NFL. I'm sorry, man. 900 hours is nothing. So for you to test to get your journeyman's license, you're probably going to have 8,000 hours. And at that point, you're still wet behind the ears. You're just now starting to be trusted to run a job and maybe have a helper. So 900 hours means that you know dick and you need a lot more practice. That's not to diminish anything that you're doing, but it is, honestly, I'm sorry. 900 hours is just nothing, especially if those 900 hours are from your trade school and they're not from actual work out in the field. 900 hours worth of out in the field versus 900 hours of sitting in a classroom, I'll take the guy that has the 900 in the field any fucking day of the week. But 900 is still nothing. So I would expect that you would probably get the same pay as somebody walking in with 0. Because 900 hours, if you're guaranteed a maximum of 2,000 hours a year, that means that you haven't even worked for 6 months. That's like 3 months of experience. That's nothing. Sorry, I'm not trying to be a dick to you. I'm not trying to like diminish you. Fuck, I sound like an asshole. I'm so sorry. I'm just saying, like, the way that your question is worded is in a way that it makes it seem like you have all of this experience, so that you're wondering if you should be paid more than somebody with no experience, when in all reality, you still have no experience. That's my honest to God truthful answer. So, I didn't mean to like completely humiliate you or anything with that. I'm sorry. All right, next up, how do I go about starting my own landscape lighting company? That is actually a good idea. I had my own landscape lighting company before I did any electrical company, because I had to have some kind of legal way of doing side work. And instead of doing illegal side work and trying to replace services and things that I shouldn't be doing, you can get away with doing anything low voltage, in Texas at least. So I could go do LED landscape lighting and things like that didn't require me to do actual electrical work, but it was still stuff that I knew how to do. So in Texas, at least, you just have to do a search from the Secretary of State to see if the entity, the name that you're trying to reserve, is taken. Try to pick a name that is not taken. Otherwise, they're probably going to kick it back and say you can't have that name. Somebody's already registered that name. Once you get that done, there's like 500 things you should do. If you're going to be advertising, you need to go get the web domain saved for whatever.com. You should get your Facebook saved, your Instagram saved, Reddit, Twitter, all of those things. I would make sure that whatever name of your company that you're doing, that you look all that stuff up first before you go spend the money. You can go to LegalZoom to get the actual business formulated. I would probably do an LLC at the least. You could do a sole proprietorship, I suppose. You don't really need to do a corporation unless you're doing a lot of light. It kind of depends on like what you're doing. Really, you should talk to a tax person for that to figure out if you're going to be an LLC taxed as an S Corp or an LLC taxed as a sole proprietorship, but still get an LLC. It allows you to pass through everything on your taxes, lets you write a whole lot of stuff off as business expenses. But then, get all of the marketing stuff done, and then just go to town. Really, it's pretty easy to start a business. If you're going to be paying yourself as an employee of the company, you have to work, like in Texas, we have the Texas Workforce Commission. We have to pay taxes. So you need to get some kind of payroll software. I use Gusto for all of my businesses. I got 4 companies. And so when I pay myself, I pay through a payroll software called Gusto. ADP is another one, but that's what Dell and Microsoft and all these big ass companies use. It's really not user friendly. So Gusto is what I used to do payroll out of. But then, just go to town. It's a pretty easy procedure. I would make sure that you have some kind of insurance, because if for some reason you're running a wire through an attic that's low voltage still to a landscape system or something, and you put a foot through their ceiling, you need to be able to cover that on insurance. If not, there's people, part of the problem with people out there doing hack work is that they don't have insurance and they screw stuff up and then they can't cover it, and it screws over homeowners, and it gives a bad taste for all the rest of us who are licensed, who are doing quality work. So just make sure that you have insurance at least. It does cost more money, but if you're going to go into business, you need to understand that the relationship to money is a very different one than it is for just collecting a paycheck every week. You use money as a tool in a business to transact trades of value, really. So it's a useful tool. You can buy assets rather than saving all your money at the end of the year and just giving a bunch of it to the government for taxes. You can use a lot of that money to buy assets for the company to further invest in the company. I could do endless videos on this shit. If you guys want to know more about the business side of how I run all of the different companies and stuff that I, Electrician and Livewire and all the other stuff, I'd be happy to go into some videos on that kind of stuff. Oh, and that was by Diego Medina. Sorry I didn't say your name. I gotta redo how I'm doing this. I gotta say the name first, right? Okay. So, Pedro Can you please tell me how to get a journeyman's license if I didn't go to an apprentice school? I've been doing industrial electric work for a while and have knowledge, but I would like to get certified. If you're working for an electrical company, that should be, or are you, maybe you're working for an industrial factory or something where you're not working around a whole bunch of other electricians. I feel like the electrician you work with every day should definitely have already trained you with that information on, like, if you have a legitimate apprentice electrician card, a license that's registered with the state, then any journeyman or master that's working around you, any other electrician should be like, all right, here's how you get your license. You got to spend 4 years gathering up hours under a master electrician, and that master electrician has to sign off on your hours saying, yes, he definitely worked these hours. And then you take that and go to your state's website, the licensing and registration, the same place where you got your apprentice card. You just go and apply, print out a bunch of pieces of paper, and you put down your hours, your work history, everywhere that you've worked. And then all the companies you've worked for have to sign off on it, verify your hours, verify you did indeed work there. You take this big envelope of stuff, you send it into your state. The state looks at everything. They look through their computers to make sure that you actually indeed did have licenses for all of the hours that you were claiming that you did. If there's any like fuckery with it, they might call the companies that you've worked for and just verify some stuff. But at that point, then they'll send you a letter back saying, you're good to go. Feel free to schedule your test with PSI or with whoever the testing agency for your state is. Then you just call them, set up a time for a test, go sit in there, take the test, hopefully pass it. When you pass it, a couple weeks later, you get a brand new card in the mail, and ta-da, you're a journeyman. That's how it goes in Texas. I don't know about everywhere. Pretty similar, I would imagine. But that's the gist of it. I'm surprised that you don't know the answer to that question, being that you are an apprentice, which means that you are working under other electricians, I would hope. It's surprising to me that they haven't answered that question or shown you or told you how the whole licensing process works. I would ask them, because they're going to know more about your state and your situation than I am. You know, I'm here in Texas. I don't know if you're in Texas or where you're at, but that's at least how it goes for Texas. Hope that helped. All right, now we're going to move on to the a little bit more technical stuff. We've got Richard C. from Q&A number 2. How would you inspect a typical residential panel to determine time of change? How would you inspect a typical residential panel to determine time of change? Will older panel bus bars be less conductive? If so, will it show and affect the voltage? I personally really like Eaton because they use treatment for the bus bar in their panel, but in your experience, how does that affect the lifespan of the electrical panel? I'm speaking about mainly service panels. I feel like that is a question that is required more thought than is actually a reality of anything happening. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think you're overthinking the situation. So I don't ever recommend people just change out panels for any reason, ever. There's panels that have been around since, like, I don't know, 40, 50 years now that are not, old school shit that need to be taken out, but that are like quality GE stuff, or, there's Square D stuff that's been around for decades and decades. There's no reason to replace any of it. If there's not actually a problem, then I wouldn't replace anything. What you're going to be looking for are signs of burns, signs of overheating, signs of anything melting, signs of conductors, the insulation around the conductors where they come into breakers. If they're starting to melt a little bit, or if there's insulation missing, it looks like things are definitely overheating. But it's the components, really, not the bus itself, that usually takes the damage. That's not always true. Sometimes buses warp, sometimes lugs warp. There are different situations, but really any kind of excess heating that would happen inside of a panel is going to be a problem that's going to be noticeable, and that you're going to want to replace those components. But you don't just replace a panel because it's old. You shouldn't have to, and if you do, then you're buying cheap shit. So Eaton is good stuff. I would say Eaton's kind of middle of the road. I'm a big fan of Square D, especially their QO line of stuff. Their home line's a pretty decent product too. It's a little bit cheaper in my opinion. But, you know, pretty much everything, even Siemens, like Siemens makes good stuff. I have noticed a lot of Eaton's arc fault, ground fault, and dual function breakers have a lot of nuisance tripping. Siemens does every once in a while too. Square D, I just never have a problem with. They're just top of the line shit across the board. Like even their commercial load centers, you know, smart breakers, everything, like they're top notch. So I don't just replace panels. I replace panels if it's old and it's like burned out. I replace panels if there's not enough capacity and they need to upgrade something. I will replace panels if they don't make any of the breakers for like upgrading to add like arc fault and dual function and ground fault and all of that stuff, and we need to just completely change it out. If a service is like badly damaged or something has fallen on the lines and ripped the riser and the meter off of the house, I will replace it then, but it's usually catastrophic reasons as to why you would change something out, or there's actual components that are broken, or there's signs that there is massive overheating and that some of these breakers may not be working. There's warping, there's arcing, there's actual noises, or there's some kind of glaring problem as to why you should replace it. Age itself is not a good enough reason, unless we're talking that kind of age, like 40s, 50s, 60s era, where the companies are not even around because their breakers don't trip. So, good question, but I wouldn't just change anything just for the sake of changing it. Leonardo da Vinci, thanks as always, but can we get a review of Wago connectors and whether you tape around duplexes and switches? Thanks again. Okay. Wago connectors. For those of you that don't know what Wagos are basically stab-in connectors where you don't take two wires and twist them together and put a wire nut on them. They are push-in style terminations. So I don't have a problem with Wagos. Almost every kind of recessed can that I've put in the last 15 years have had Wagos on the inside. And we're putting 12-2 Romex into these Wagos. Everything's fine. I don't have any weird issues with them losing connection or anything like that. In those situations where there's only 3 Wagos in a tiny little junction box in an attic where there's not wire that's going to get like pulled and yanked on, or you're not like smashing a whole bunch of Wagos into one area, I think using Wagos is a spectacular idea. A lot of the fluorescent lighting that you're going to find in like Hobby Lobbies and Michael's and Home Depot and Walmart and stuff like that, I use Wagos the entire row when you're relamping and putting new ballasts in and you're dealing with all those ballast wires. I use Wagos on everything. You'll have like a row of like these T832 ballasts where you just like boom, 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 you set them all up and you just stick Wagos on every single one of the leads, all the blues, the reds, the yellows, flip them around. I put a quick disconnect, which is kind of another Wago. It's a stab-in disconnect that you can pull apart, but I put that on the black and white, and I just line an entire table with all of these ballasts and get them prepped and ready. And then I go climb up on a ladder and I'm taking lamps out and putting ballasts up, and the Wagos are just like boom, boom, boom. You like pop in, pop out. Love them. Absolutely love them. But where I stop with my use of Wagos is when I've got like device boxes. I would rather bend hooks and put them on the actual devices. I don't make pigtails with Wagos and then go to the devices. It's just a personal preference thing. I just don't want to use that many Wagos all the time. I would rather twist a wire nut and untwist a wire nut. So most of the time for larger wires, for anything that's not a ballast wire, really, I'm going to use a twisted together joint. Just because the whole 1970s era, when everybody was putting in receptacles, they had, oh damn it, I don't have one. They had stab-in plugs in the back. Same kind of technology. It's a push-in termination. These things over time, because you're plugging into them over and over and over, they start to lose their grip. And every once in a while, you'll lose like power to a few rooms in a house. And then you'll get a phone call. Somebody's like, I can't figure out why half the plugs in my house don't work. And so you go out there and you start tapping on receptacles, and all of a sudden the lights start turning back on. And you're like, yeah, it's because you got all these fucking stab-in plugs. So I'm not a fan of push-in, stab-in kinds of terminations as a permanent termination. It's kind of the same philosophy that I don't like stripping out the ends of wires and putting them together and then just putting a wire nut on them. Because the second you take the wire nut off, they flop open. And if you don't want that to happen, if you want to take a wire nut off and you want the joint to stay together and power to still go through the circuit, if you're working on something live, just not letting, conductors flop off, or the possibility of you, like somebody, opening the devices up and then the wire nut just fly off and these wires, hot wires just like, poof. I think it's just more manageable to use wire nuts. I know there's a whole argument out there if people are like, you don't have to pre-twist your wire nuts. You do have to, you don't have to. There's like a whole debate on the whole thing. I just personally like twisted together joints because that shit is solid together, especially the way that I make them. I take my lineman's pliers, I twist, and I make sure that it's not just the metal at the end that twists together. I make sure the sheathing for probably like 2 inches is also twisted. There's no way in hell that joint is coming apart. It is a solidly made joint. It's almost like I'm bolting the fucking thing together. So I like that kind of a joint because it's permanent and I feel confident walking away from it that there's not any kind of situation, whether it's bumped or pulled on or anything, that could possibly come loose. There's no amount of moisture or heat and cold or corrosion over a long enough time that's going to cause these little tiny stab-in kind of terminations to lose their connection on the inside of that thing. Now, granted, most Wagos, modern Wagos, don't really have that problem. Again, it's just a preference thing. I like wire nuts, but I do use Wagos for very specific purposes. Hope that answered your question. Thank you, Leonardo da Vinci. Berkey on shorts, residential electrical materials. Okay, Berkey on shorts, residential electrical materials. Is there anything better than a bell box and an in-use cover for face-mounted exterior outlets? Absolutely. There's like 5 other options that you could use. If you go through Home Depot, the same place that you see bell boxes and bell box covers, blanks, in-use covers, there are tons of different options. There's the 2 little like outlet things that you can flip open. I call it a flip open cover. There's like a box that's an in-use cover, but that's expandable. It's kind of like an accordion. So it actually accordions shut when nothing's plugged into it, but when you do have something to plug into it, you unaccordion it, and it's almost just like a regular in-use cover. There are in-use covers that are actually meant to be put in stucco, and so it's a whole box that's really deep and it's white and you can run conductors in, but that way you can flush mount the front cover to the wall rather than having a whole bell box sticking out on the outside and an in-use cover on the outside. That's something you really need to be thinking of at the construction phase. It needs to be screwed in and mounted to a wall, cut into a wall, but as far as like in-use covers, really there are just in-use covers where you're constantly leaving a plug plugged into an outlet outside that's always plugged in there and you don't want water getting into it. Or you just use a regular flip cover. There's some that the whole cover flips up or flips sideways. It's not a big bubble that sticks out like an in-use cover because it's not being used. It's not in use. It's just there for convenience, and you flip a flap open, flip a flap open, and you plug in for the time being, then you unplug it and go about your merry way. You're not leaving it there in use at all times. So in-use covers, bubble covers, are meant for that reason. So there's not really a lot of options for those specifically, but there are the kinds that accordion out and accordion back in. Yeah, that might be something more like what you're talking about. Any chance you will talk about any opinions on the Texas power grid drama? From Mac Poirot. I don't know. Q&A number 1. Seems like everybody in the country has an opinion, but I would love to hear yours. Man, I very much try to stay out of political shit. I know that I was without power for a fucking week, but I just like read books. I sat and lit candles. I cuddled with my dog. I went ice skating with my dog on my driveway. I went and played in the snow, built snowman. I was chill, bro, for a week. I was cool. Didn't have any fucking food, didn't have any firewood, my electricity was off, my cell service didn't work, didn't have any kind of internet. Notice I'm not talking about the politics, which is what you want me to talk about. That is to say that is the most it affected me in my life. So for me to go dig into the news articles and try to form an opinion so I can be a public talking head somebody about some hot ticket issue, not my interest, bro. I just don't give a fuck. They're going to do whatever they're going to do, or they're not going to do whatever they're going to not do. I'm just going to keep living my fucking life, bro. I'm just a blue-collar dude trying to live my life one day at a time. And I don't believe anybody in power has my fucking best interest in mind, and they're not going to. So that's about as hot topic political as I am going to get about any of these issues. But I did have a very interesting week, and it was kind of rad because it was like I got to pretend that I was living in Colorado. I had just gotten back from Colorado. I was in the snow up in the mountains, and then I got back here and it snowed us in, and it was like ice. And I was like, fuck, I'm gonna read so many books this week. So it was actually kind of a cool thing. Like, I know a lot of people, you know, had to suffer and some people died and stuff. I just burned cardboard for a fucking week. I get so many boxes from like sponsors and stuff. My garage is full of just like boxes I need to burn. So I was like, this is a good opportunity. Like, I just try to see everything in life as an opportunity, man. But I was just sitting there burning fucking boxes and burning wood and cuddling with my dog and reading books, man. I was fucking set. Okay, this is Hi Hey on the job site PPE you should wear. Question, does wearing suspenders reduce back pain in the future? I feel like it is less rough on my hips, but more on my shoulders. How are they in the long run? I'm an 8-month apprentice. That's a good question. So either way, you are putting a lateral amount of weight on a longitudinal body. Either way, you're going to make something on your body sore from the added weight that you are carrying around every single day. It's like if you were to gain 20 pounds for the day, and then at the end of the day, take 20 pounds off and go live the rest of your life. If you had to just carry around extra weight on you, you're going to get sore either way. So the question of, I think that having tools from personal experience on your waist and letting your waist be the thing that holds them is totally fine as long as the weight is distributed evenly. Over long periods of time, that's not what happens, though. We end up having more weight kind of on one side, so it makes our spine misalign, and that's when you start to have pinched nerves and stuff that really start to debilitate you and fuck with your lower back. So if you're gonna do the waist thing, it's fine. Just make sure that you're trying to even the weight out, and that will help you last longer, even though you're still going to have hip issues. You're still gonna have lower back pains. Everything you're doing, you're bending over, you're trying to heave up ladders, down, everything. So you carry a lot of your stress and everything in your lower back when you're doing that. With the suspenders, at least you are using the entire architecture of your back, all of the back muscles that you've got to support and stack all of that weight on. And you know, your feet and everything. So just letting everything hang, kind of just your body is able to support all of that weight a lot more naturally. I think it's just more evenly distributed. Now, you are going to hold that stress up higher on your back, so it's going to be 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. You're still going to have upper back soreness, but I don't think you're going to have upper back problems like you are going to have lower back problems wearing everything down low. Wearing your tools low contributes heavily to lower back problems. Upper back tension and having knots in your back and stuff I've noticed from wearing suspenders, but I don't have any upper back problems. I can do all kinds of shit. I have a really strong back, but not my lower back. For the longest time, for many years, I didn't. So it's kind of, you know, I think the school of thought now, what I try to tell people is just wear less tools. You don't need half the shit that's on your tool belt. You really don't. Most of the time, what you need is a quarter of the stuff in your tools on you at all times. And then you need to have a bag that's kind of in or around the area that you're working on, that when you're going to do a specific task that requires these extra tools, you just run by the bag, grab them, stick them in there, go work, do a little bit, come back when you're done with that task and put those tools back away. And kind of keep track of where all of your stuff is, keep all your stuff put away. But you don't need to have like 30 pounds of shit on you just in case you might use it for the day. And a lot of people are in that kind of mindset. So I hope that helps. Just try to wear less and this whole thing won't even really be a problem. Jaron Hart. Hey, this is on Shorts, Apprentice Electrician Tools. Hey, I have a question. I have a single pole switch and a switch loop. I have a pretty old house. We want to put a dimmer switch to control that light, but since it is in a switch loop, we can't do it. Do we have to rewire the light as from the breaker to the dimmer switch to the light or what? Please help. I would like to know. Thank you. you can still use a dimmer with a switch loop. Depends on what kind of dimmer. If you're talking about like a Radio Raw 2 dimmer, or if you're talking about something that actually requires a neutral, then no. But there are a lot of dimmers that you can use, like a Lutron Maestro dimmer. All it takes is a hot in and a leg out and a ground. You don't have to have a neutral. So maybe just pick a different style of dimmer so you don't have to go rewire your whole situation. Otherwise, yes, to get a neutral there, you're gonna have to run from wherever that circuit's hot and neutral are, which is most likely, because of the era of the home and the fact they're using switch loops, is probably like 60s, maybe 70s, where they put from the panel they went up to the ceilings and they put junction boxes, or a lot of like light fixtures and fans and stuff is where they ran the home runs to, and then they ran switch loops down to the switch and then back up again. So if you just go to that location, like here in this room there's a fan that you can't see, but if that was where my hot and my neutral were and I had a switch loop running down, I could just run another conductor from there all the way down, like another 12-2 Romex that would go down. That would give me a hot and a neutral going down, and then the existing hot and a neutral that's coming back up that I could use as a switch leg. But that's pretty much what you'd have to do. You don't have to run a whole new thing from the panel. You just have to find the closest neutral and hot and get a new set of conductors, a new 12-2 Romex from there down to the switch. Hope that helped you out. All right, so the next section of this is the fandom, funny, and miscellaneous. This is the one I'm looking forward to. Jordan Bahm, B-A-H-M, from Q&A number 2. Man, you are so aware subconsciously or not judging by your stickers on your laptop, laptop, he spelled it with a B. You are aware, smiley face. But wow, I see so much openness and truth, and wow, smiley face. Oh, I suppose there's some things on there. Yeah, I suppose there's some things on there. I am's who I am's, but thank you. Thank you for not judging my my subconscious awareness. And thank you for being consciously aware of my consciousness and my stickers. And my truth and wow. Thank you, that was a funny comment. Jason Gillian on Q&A number 2. Company name suggestion. Oh yeah, I was looking for company names for Livewire. Because everybody's using Livewire now that like Livewire was my thing, and like the domain is super stupid expensive. Like people have been taking the marketing, everything. Long story. So we've got company name suggestion: Arc Flash Incorporated. All employees will be required to shave eyebrows off. Also, love the videos, man. Keep it up. That's funny. Oh, could you imagine how fucking creepy and weird that would be? Bro, like a group of electricians walked up to some old lady's house and they're all missing their eyebrows and none of them are wearing hats. It's just like bald fucking eyebrows. Oh fuck, that's probably not as funny as it is in my head, but that's great. Oh my god, that would be so fucking creepy. Oh. Bread and Roy, Braden. Oh, Bread. Sorry. Braden. B-R-E-A-D-A-N. Braden, I guess, not Bread and. On the 4 basic electrical testers video. Loving the new graphics and gags while keeping it educational. Yeah, what do you guys think of the new editing style? So, Drake is doing a lot of just goofy kind of shit and is trying to be playful and like start to push the edges a little bit with the video editing and just be silly and kind of keep things entertaining without trying to make it pompous and stupid and over edited. We're trying to keep some kind of like human element. Like we're not, you know, trying hard to make it an overproduced thing, but we are trying to make it at least kind of mildly entertaining so that you can sit through a whole thing and not just be bored out of your fucking mind. So give a thumbs up to Drake if you think he's doing a good job at that. Next one from TFL on the outlawed panels and breakers. Are the 277 volt members above the 600 volt members? Bro, what? What are you smoking? We don't have a 270. Maybe we should have a 277 volt. I've got a 120 volt membership. If you're not a member, join. No, seriously, you should join the channel membership. Like there's all kinds of extra goodies that you get. But there's a 120 volt membership and there's a 480 volt membership. But there's not a 277 or a 600 volt membership, so this guy's just trolling me. Okay, we got Hatim, Hatim 13. Hey man, I'm happy you're doing good, and the amount of uploads and content is just mind-blowing. I'm curious if you're still going to put up videos on Journey to Master. A lot of wisdom on that channel too. Yes, I wonder too. I'm curious too. I keep going back and forth on this. So Journey to Master always, like when it started out, it was just me recording live wire stuff and kind of what I was doing out in the field. I am still recording content like that. Now I'm just not showing any of it. I'm going to probably start showing that this summer, but it being that it's electrical content, I feel like it should still just be on Electrician U, just as like a new playlist of content that's like just from the field or like just live wire content or something. So Journey to Master over the years just kind of started to become more like philosophy and my thoughts about life and stuff like that. But it seems like that's what a lot of people liked watching it for. The last video that I posted was like post my divorce, and I haven't made another video since. I'm sorry, I probably should, right? I should probably like not let that be the last thing that's on that channel. Let me know what you guys think. If you like my other channel, Journey to Master, and you'd like me to keep doing it, let me know what you liked about it, what you want to see. I thought about doing a Dustin Stelzer channel. I have like a YouTube channel, it's Dustin Stelzer, but I don't really have anything on it. But I thought about like all of that stuff that I'm doing, talking about stuff that's not necessarily this, just doing it on my own channel rather than Journey to Master. The word Journey to Master doesn't really, I don't know. I just don't know what to do with it. So if you have some suggestions, please comment below, whatever you think. I'd love to though. I'm always coming across new information, new thoughts. I read like a madman. I'm reading so many damn books. I've been reading a lot on just like masculinity these days and about our society and how we view femininity and how we view masculinity and what's kind of wrong, the flaws in how we teach men to be men and what we discourage men from doing and what we encourage of them, and women, same thing. So there's a lot of like really great thought experiments and stuff and some of that stuff. So I'd love to share any of that stuff with you guys. But I also thought about doing that on my TikTok too. So I have a personal TikTok, a personal Instagram, a personal YouTube, all of that's away from Electrician U. And I think that might be a better platform for it because a lot of people are here to like learn electrical stuff. They're not here to like listen to me talk about doing mushrooms and like being conscious. Anyways, so let me know what you guys think. Okay, my battery is about to die. So this is gonna be the last one. We got John Cantrell. Q&A number 1. Is that book on industrial motor control behind you and the video a good one? Would you recommend it? Thanks. Industrial motor control. This is a killer book. I talked about this in my live on Friday. Go back and watch from a few days ago from Friday. This thing is rad because it's got all kinds of diagrams. Shows you how to read schematics, the difference between motor circuits and control circuits, how to jog motors, transformers, solid state, PLCs, like variable speed drives. There's all kinds of stuff, man. So yes, this is a killer book. This opened up my knowledge, opened up my whole mind when I started reading this book into like a whole ocean of new possibilities. So yes, I highly recommend going and getting that book. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is the end. I told you that I would give you the answer to the trivia at the end of the video. What is the difference between an RCD and a GFCI? There is none. You waited all that time for that, for nothing. So, on the wiki page, an RCD or GFCI is a type of circuit breaker which shuts off electric power when it senses an imbalance between outgoing and incoming current. RCD is something across the pond that they usually say. Here in the States, we say GFCI. So if you ever see RCD or GFCI, just know that it protects people. It's often found in bathrooms and kitchens, places where bare flesh may be introduced into a ground fault situation, somewhere people could get shocked, especially around wet bodies of water or wet floors or the like. So, thank you guys so much. Check out the website if you want any merch. If you need some practice exams, if you're practicing for your state exam, go to electricianu.com/practice exams, maybe practice-exams. Get yourself some exams. There's actual printable PDF versions on there as well that you can print out, so you have the answer sheet. They don't expire, so I mean, like, you can practice for the next year, whatever you want to do. It's all based on the 2017 code. And join channel membership if you haven't. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, thumbs up, all that jazz. Love you crazy people, and I will see you in the next one.
Descant music and video.